Hey, a good Monday afternoon to you. Welcome on into Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com, our first show of May. I am Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne. Claibs, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to shooting the breeze. A lot of things to talk about. So let's get this thing popping.
Before we get started, did your horse win at the Derby on Saturday?
No, you didn't win.
Did you win anything at all?
No, I didn't. You know what? Here's the thing.
Sounds like you don't want to talk about it.
It was one of those things.
Did they shoot your horse after the race was done?
No, here's the deal. There wasn't a real clear-cut favorite to me. And there were a lot of horses who were double-digit odds that had a chance, and obviously we had one that won. And I don't know if there'll be a lot of buzz, if this horse decides to run in the Preakness. I mean, there was a time when you were expected, if you were a Derby winner, to run, the Preakness and then the Belmont Stakes. But now these horses just can't cut it. Physically, they just aren't the same horse. And so I don't know if there's going to be any flair for it. So we'll see. But, it was a good day at the race. I watched most of it on NBC. And I'll tell you something. One of the things about technology, and there's so much of it happening in sports, you have golf with the ball tracker. The Indy 500, to me, is the most technically sound event you can ever watch with all the things that go on there. But in horse racing, the new camera angles that they use, where you can literally follow the race, from start to finish with one camera. It's a lot of fun. And compared to the old days where there was a great photo of the horses, bringing up dirt as they were running past the camera, those days are over. I mean, they give you so many different looks. And that's one of the things I appreciated about network horse racing. The normal horse racing channels don't give you that many looks.
Yeah, so we move on to that one.
How'd you do?
I didn't lay down any money. I was going to go. My plan Saturday morning was to go up to Max in Alton and put something down. I just never got around to doing it and driving out there. So
I wanted to go early, and then I started hitting golf balls and then kind of forgot about it. So I just, no biggie.
You also had a big weekend of Cardinal baseball. We'll get to that in a second, but do want to make mention of our friend Ryan Kelly, one of our sponsors here, the HomeLoanExpert.com. He started his new Keep Climbing Foundation, had the big donation, the big radiothon this past weekend. You can go back and you can see Claibs' interview with Ryan Kelly. This that was done last week as Ryan was making all the rounds all around St. Louis. And then I noticed, I went back and I was watching it and I listened to it. I appreciate you volunteering me to, I guess I'm climbing a mountain in Africa in 2022.
I think you're cut out for it, man. I mean, you do these marathons and half marathons. This will be something to add to your resume. I think you are the perfect candidate for this.
All right. Well, I look forward to touching base with Ryan about that and getting all that set up. I did. So what? They're in Alaska in a few weeks.
No, it's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, I thought it was in a few weeks. I thought it was like in next week or 2 weeks from now. They're going to be at the Denali in Alaska. And then I heard Ryan telling you that his plan in 2022 is to go climb a mountain in Africa. So that's they haven't been there yet. They haven't done that yet. So. I guess I need to start doing that and find some rock walls around to St. Louis to go climb.
Well, I would start with a flight of stairs, and then
I think I'm set with that. Yeah, I think I'm okay with
anything for
doing that. So we'll work it in to all the other training coming up. But Cardinals sweep the Pirates. Rammer and I, we recorded our daily cards this morning. And I started off, if the Pirates don't want to put a good baseball team on the field, the Cardinals need to sweep them every series.
I agree.
And one loss this year to the Pirates is disappointing. It would be. They don't have good starting pitching. They don't have one dangerous bat in the lineup right now, especially with Cabrian Hayes on the DL with the broken hand. If they're going to put out that shit of a lineup each and every day, you need to go out there and you need to take care of business.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you lose to them, it's only because you were complacent. They are not a good team. And, everybody thought they could lose 100 games. And I was one that said, I don't know. No, I agree. They are going to lose 100 games.
No, I mean, they got
it's
off
not
to
because
a
of lack of effort.
Yeah, they put out a good effort in April. I mean, they were 500 going into the series with the Cardinals, but they're just not good. And any good players they have outside of the Hayes that I mentioned, any other players that they have on the team that are worth a damn are going to get traded away. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Brad Thompson or Jim Edmonds that was on the call when the Nationals were in town. And they're looking at that lineup for the Nationals, and they got Josh Bell, they got Josh Harrison, and then there's one other guy on the Nationals that's a former Pirate, too. I think it's a pitcher. And they're looking at that, and they're going,
no, it's a utility guy. It's a utility guy, and I can't think of his name. Jordy Mercer.
Okay. But they're looking at that, and they're going, these are three guys that started for the Pirates a few years ago that are now, I mean, that's how they're just giving them off to other teams. And it's nice that they're in the division and the Cardinals get to play them 17, 19 times this year. That's where you need to rack up the wins. That's where you need to get up over 500 and keep building. And because the Brewers aren't going to play where they're playing at this level all year.
No, you're absolutely right, and you have to take advantage. And every division's got a team like this, okay?
Yeah.
And you have to beat them up. You don't give them any slack. And they kind of gave the Cardinals a little bit of a problem last year, but that's not the same team. But it's unfortunate, and I don't know how that thing's ever going to turn around unless they sell it. And we'll get to that a little later in the show.
Yeah, so they win that. The one thing coming from it, and Rammer and I touched on it again this morning. So your starting pitching has been phenomenal. The last time
it's
and a half,
supposed to be. They're playing Pittsburgh.
But when you look at how they started off, and you're looking at that, and you're going, "My God, like, is this team ever going to make it to the fifth inning, or are these starters going to make it out of the fifth at all?" And now they're starting to pitch the way they all should be pitching. And you get, the last 1-2 times through the rotation, you're getting these really good starts from these guys. That's the pitching that you hoped for. That's the pitching that you expected to have when you started the camp with these 6-7 starters that you knew you were. And on top of that, you're getting Michaelis back soon. He's going to start a rehab assignment and work his way back. You want to find innings for Oviedo at some point. John Gant's not letting you in at all. John Gant's not giving you a reason to sit him down and say, we need to put you back in the bullpen, or we need to send you down to Memphis for a few starts. You're giving the Cardinals a lot more weapons in that rotation and giving more guys days off. Like they were able to give Wainwright an extra day off this weekend.
I'll make this prediction now on May 3rd. You'll need every pitcher you can find by the time September rolls around. You have some options here. Depending on how well KK performs, maybe he's a guy that goes to the bullpen, because right now Andrew Miller isn't giving you much because he's been hurt. Tyler Webb has had his ups and downs. Cabrera is going to be fine considering what happened last week. So you've got some things to play with, but on May 3rd, we look really good as far as potential, but I can promise you come September, we'll be looking for another arm.
Yeah. You think a starter or somebody out of the bullpen?
I think probably more starter.
I don't, with the way that you're pitching right now.
But you mentioned it now, and
but the thing is, I mean, outside of a major injury to one of these starters, I don't know. I mean, unless somebody like a Max Scherzer becomes available, I don't know who you're going out and you're trading to bring in, because there's no point in getting rid if they're low-level minor league guys that you don't see ever playing a game at Busch Stadium in their career. That's one thing to trade away. But as of right now, there's no reason to bring in a fourth or a fifth starter when you still have guys like Ponce, like Oviedo, that are going to be down in Memphis getting starts. And then when they just announced their minor league camp and you're starting Matthew Liberatore down there at AAA, telling me he's one step away from the big leagues, I feel like you take a chance at that before you go outside of the organization and bring in a guy that's just a fourth, fifth starter with a 4 ERA.
Well, I wouldn't be looking for that guy. I'd be looking for a guy who's on a team that's out of it, that's looking to move a salary that can help me, and maybe he's a 2 in that organization. The Liberatore thing, I'm going to be cautious with that, because this is a guy who's fairly young, and really hasn't pitched a lot. Okay. And
No.
they put him on the fast track to go to Memphis. I didn't see enough of him in spring training that told me that he was ready for Memphis.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
That's it. And this is a baseball-wide problem that you have. I mean, our organization, the Cardinals, have Matthew Liberatore and Nolan Gorman that have not played, that are the two top prospects that have not played a single game in over a year, that have not played a game that matters within their organization in over a year. That's the case at every single level. And you look at, I think it was Brian Hoffman pointed out on Twitter yesterday, you look at Justin Williams and how well Justin Williams is hitting the ball this year. Justin Williams didn't play at all last year. He had an entire year where he was in Springfield and he did absolutely nothing last year. For him to be able to step in the way he did at spring training, and now once he's gotten going at the major league level, says a lot about how good of a ball player he could be. But you're going to see that all throughout baseball with a lot of these guys. So when that AAA season starts around all of baseball, it's going to be eye-opening for some of these guys, just how good some of them are and how some of them have regressed.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Stand by is what I say, and it'll take half of the spring to realize who should be where.
Yeah,
half the season to figure out who should be where.
Yeah, and that's, as they announced the you could find it online, the rosters for all of the minor league teams as they get started here in a few weeks. Back to the pitching real quick, though. Despite Carlos Martinez with another outstanding outing yesterday, 8 innings, 3 hits in the game, we saw another opponent get hit in the head with a fastball. We saw that with Genesis Cabrera last week. We saw it last Sunday with Jack Flaherty and Jonathan India. And now we see it yesterday with Carlos Martinez. They're not intentional. They're not trying to hit these guys. The Cardinals aren't going headhunting. But like we saw in Thursday's game, when Nolan Gorman got hit in the 9th inning of that game, the Cardinal batters are going to start paying the price for the wildness of these starters. And I don't know how it ends. I don't know where it ends outside of pitchers just getting better control.
Yeah, you're right. And what happens, we have a generation of guys who don't know how to throw inside, okay, or haven't done it enough. If you go back one generation, everybody had to establish the inside part of the plate in order to be effective. Now you're seeing guys trying to do that, and they're throwing four-seamers, and they start to rise on them, and, it slips out of their hand or whatever the case may be, and these things are going to happen. Throw in the fact you got a lot of hitters that get really comfortable in the batter's box, and they look to go out and pull that outside pitch because, that slider is giving everybody problems. So they try and go out and pull it, and they don't think about a guy wanting to come back inside. Seldom do these guys think a pitcher can double up on a pitch. So there are a lot of different factors that go into it. The Cardinals aren't the only team that's having that issue. There's some other teams that are starting to really have pitchers that you can't find control. And here's the other thing that comes with it. Think about the fact that of the foreign substances that pitchers have used in the past, whether they were illegal or just definitely crossing the line, are not being used. And I think there's some guys, and if you ever feel one of these baseballs that they use now, they're barely rubbed up as far as, having taken the sheen off of it and also not making it as slick. And it goes back to being able to do that. Now, there was a time when the umpires did it. The clubhouse guys do it now. And how effective they are in doing it, I don't know. But I think there are a lot of factors that go into why we see so many balls getting away from pitchers, especially early in the year when the weather, you don't have the humidity, you don't have the grip that you would normally have due to perspiration and things of that nature. A lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, it's a few scary moments though, and you saw Arenado get hit in the game on Thursday, and Schilt got ejected, but then kind of just brushed it off and saying, we expected it to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think Arenado felt the same way.
I disagree. I think when you have a situation like that and you're a good player, you should go to the batter's box expecting to get hit. If you don't get hit, that means that maybe they either took a pass on it or somebody else is going to get it. So no, I'm sure that he knew he was going to get hit or expected to be hit or thrown at. I think the problem is guys get pissed off more about getting thrown at than getting hit.
Mets are in town.
If you miss, then we got a problem.
Mets are in town this week, 4-game series. Tonight, I keep hitting refresh, and I haven't seen it yet. I'm doing it again right this second. The Mets have not announced a starting pitcher for tonight's game yet, but Adam Wainwright will be on the mound for the Cardinals. I feel like Adam Wainwright was put on the COVID list. A family member was close contact. I feel like that was a move to give a veteran an extra day off and not have to get on a plane to Pittsburgh.
I agree wholeheartedly. And, they're being creative about it. I don't, you want to try and do it in a diplomatic way where you're not really, but here's the thing. He wasn't helping the Cardinals over in Pittsburgh this weekend.
No,
he wasn't going to pitch. He wasn't going to hit. He wasn't going to do anything. So it's a situation that, hey, look, just stay here with your family. If you want to throw, come down to the ballpark, there'll be here, somebody here to play catch, whatever you want to do. And Adam Wainwright knows how to take care of himself at this stage of his career. So I didn't really have a problem with it.
What are you hearing about Jordan Hicks?
Nothing. I'm sure they'll have some sort of announcement when I get to the ballpark later, but I haven't heard anything. And to be honest with you, Joe, when I saw it first take place, I thought it was his shoulder, but they said, no, it was his arm. And then talking to Mike Schilt yesterday, he made an interesting point, and it's something we probably ought to take into account. You can run and throw and lift and do all those things on the side all you want during your rehab and during the downtime, but there's nothing like the adrenaline rush and the environment. And when the games take place, sometimes you can kind of add a little too much giddy up to things, and maybe you overdo it not knowing it. And that might have been part of the issue as well. But as of yesterday, when I talked to him, he didn't seem like he was gravely concerned about him being down for an extended period of time.
The matchup tomorrow is the one that I'm very much looking forward to. It's KK against Jacob deGrom. If you've only followed the Cardinals and you haven't followed anything going on outside of the National League Central or outside of St. Louis, Jacob deGrom, who already has won Cy Young Awards in 2018 and 2019, has started this year. He has started 5 games already this year. Claibs, he's allowed 2 earned runs in those 5 games. 35 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. That is an ERA of 0.51. I
think the bigger issue is look at the run scored for him in those games.
So I don't see runs scored up here on the screen. I'm just on Baseball Reference looking at this, so I don't know what they've scored for him. What I do know is that he's 2-2, which means he's allowed 2 earned runs this season in 35 innings pitched, and he's lost 2 of his 5 games that he's pitched in.
Well, while you're on Baseball Reference, why don't you take a look at Bob Gibson 1968 when he had the 1.12 ERA?
Yeah.
He lost 10 games that year.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a total of 17 runs scored on his behalf.
That one, I mean, the 69 season for Gibson, or the 68, the 68 season that he had. That's the one where it's the complete games. He had 28 complete games and 22 wins. Those records that he had, and then he did it again in 69 too, with the 28 complete games and the 20 wins that season. That's the one that always just fascinates me, that he went out there and pitched all 9 and still lost a third of the time.
How about looking at the innings that he pitched? And they're well over 300. And we're popping champagne corks if a guy can give you 160 these days.
Right.
200, then, he's definitely a Cy Young candidate. So obviously the game has changed, but I was talking to somebody today about deGrom and about how he is Koufax-esque, Gibson-esque as far as his skill set. And this is something he's done on a regular basis, which brings me to this question. When his deal is up, do you pay him just stupid money, or because you think he's going to be better? Or do you make him a legitimate offer, obviously, but maybe not where he's the highest paid guy because you don't know if he can be better than what he's already been?
He is right now. I'm looking at how old he is. I'm not seeing it on this main screen, so you might have to look up that information for that. No, he's 33 years old right now. He's 33 years old. And I'm not seeing where his contract is. I'm trying to just scroll through quickly to find out where or when he's going to be eligible for any for that. So he has a team option through 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Right now. They're paying him $35 million a year the next 2 years, and then $32.5 million for the final two. Follow with the
so he's making good coin. He's making good coin.
Yeah, and he's going to continue to do so. By the time he's under contract with them until he's 36 years old. So it's a matter of him being 37 and you looking at that and going, do we pay him 35, 40 million?
And that's why I roll the question out, because I think teams have to say, can he be better at 36 years old, 37 years old than what he's already at now? And the question is, well, why? Well, because he's going to want to be paid for that. Well, he's already one of the top paid pitchers in the game, and deservedly so. But will he be deservedly so of a contract that exceeds that at that stage of his career?
And you have the richest owner in all of baseball that's paying that salary too. So it's in the biggest market. So
I would they'll
have the money. They'll definitely have the money. We didn't bring this up. Major League Baseball this past week, umpiring has kind of had a negative light on them in two of the games that we saw. The first one was at the Marlins and the Brewers. There was a play with a slow roller down the first base line that the Brewers pitcher picked up, flipped to first, got the out. Marlins runner gave himself up, and then you see the umpire run in and tell you the guy's safe because he said that the pitcher got in the baseline.
Well, let me stop you for a second.
Yeah.
Here's why this is all wrong. The runner was running in foul territory, so he should have been out. That's why they have that line on the right side of the first baseline for you. That's your lane. If you run in foul territory, you have the chance of being out. And for some reason, I don't know whether the umpire was not lined up where he didn't see it. He should have. I mean, it's one of the most common situations a first base umpire is going to see. And he just kicked it. And I just think overall, Joe, between that play and there was another play on the bases in that same game, and then you mentioned Philadelphia, they just had a bad week. And it's not just one crew, okay? You can ask Davey Roberts. He was climbing all over Angel Hernandez the other day about some things he was doing inconsistently. So umpires, like baseball players, have bad weeks. They have bad games. And normally we bitch and moan about the fact that when they do it, it's behind the plate. We don't normally see these sort of antics on the base pass in the manner that we have. And I think that's what's really raised an eyebrow for a lot of people.
Yeah, the other one, Andrew McCutchen, in his game this weekend is running to second base, and the umpire calls him out of the baseline. He was in the dirt the whole time. He was in the dirt, never once set foot in the grass, and they call him out of the baseline for that.
We'll throw this into the equation. The tag, he was nowhere near touching McCutchen. He just it was a phantom tag. He tried to tag him with his bare hand, and he was nowhere near him. So, yeah, they kicked that one too.
So, and you and I talked about it before the show. To the fan, we don't see any kind of punishment. We see this, and it feels like it goes unnoticed, unpunishable. But you were telling me that you think there's fines and stuff that happen behind closed doors.
They get they when the games are over, these guys get their own video of their game. Calls that were questionable, calls they got right, calls they got wrong, and in some cases they'll get a fine. Seldom do they get suspended, but they are reprimanded in one shape or another. So, and they're graded throughout the year, and the grades will certainly help or decide their fate when it comes to postseason. And that's where these guys make good money in postseason. So there are a lot of things that take place behind the scenes that, because if fans knew that, hey, I heard you got fined, then you got a bigger problem. Players will start climbing on guys too. But, that's normally how it works.
Plenty of other baseball talk available for you on claibsonline.com outside of Daily Cards, which Rammer and I do each and every day. That's up on the website. That's a quick listen. Today's episode, I think, was around less than 10 minutes. Yeah, it was under 10 minutes. Today's episode. Recap everything that happened over the weekend, look ahead to the Mets series. So a quick little baseball talk for you if you're on the go. And then each and every week, we bring you the Keith Costas podcast also available on claibsonline.com as we'll get together with Keith. And I think Rammer and Keith are going to have the discussion this week about all things baseball. They look around the entire league and talk about everything, as Keith works for MLB Network. So they have their game of the week and they have all kinds of coverage there. And Keith brings that to you right here on claibsonline.com. Also, hey, we are sponsored by Mungenast St. Louis Acura. And Claibs, I don't know if it's going to be next Monday or the following Monday. I need to look at your Cardinal schedule. I need to make sure it works with you. But we will
next Monday works, because the
next Monday works.
If following Monday, I won't be available.
I will check Jamie Burkhart and I will text him and I will let him know that we want to go to and be at the showroom, the new showroom at Mungenast St. Louis Acura, and check that out and do one. I want to do a show right in front of one of those 2022 MDXs that they have there at Mungenast St. Louis Acura.
Good looking vehicle.
It is a good looking vehicle. Yes. So we're going to, I want to do a show from there. I want to do a show in front of one of the 2022 MDXs, as they just had the launch party, the 2022 Acura MDX launch party at the Missouri Athletic Club this past weekend. They have plenty of the 2022 MDXs.
They would do one inside the car. What do you think of that?
You know what? We can make it work. I bet we can do it.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Jamie. I'll see if we can do. I mean, I don't see why we couldn't.
All right.
The camera might be a little. I mean, I don't know how the board and everything. You know what? We'll make it work. We'll make it work. That'll be a nice, comfortable arrangement here instead of our current situation where we got the backdrop behind us and we're both into sitting real close to desks and everything. So we'll make it work.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we will. Hey, NFL draft this past week. Did you watch any of it? You cover?
Yeah,
I mean, you did.
I watch it. Yeah, it's more. I watch it. I've represented players that were drafted, and you always kind of get a kick out of what the analysts say. There's some people that I just can't take. I like Mel Kiper. I've known Mel for a long time. Louis Riddick, I like. Todd McShay is full of shit. Okay, I think his slant on black quarterbacks really pisses me off. All right, so I got no use for him. And there's some other guys who kind of come and go.
I've never heard. I've never heard that. I've never heard that about him. About Todd McShay having an agenda against black quarterbacks. What is? What is he?
Well, I just think I think that they're dog whisper words that I think that people use to assess black quarterbacks, and it's always gone on. But he's taking it to a level that he thinks we're all stupid. And I think the way he assessed Justin Fields and some other players, I just thought was just BS. And but overall, I enjoy watching it. I think it's become more of a circus than what it used to be, where guys really kind of gear up for it. And the NFL is trying to be a fun league, and I get it. So it's just part of what we do as people who are fans. And while I'm not the biggest fan of the NFL, I do enjoy the draft to an extent.
Justin Fields goes to the Bears as they trade up and go get their future quarterback.
They'll mess that up. Don't worry.
So this is one of the they were excited when they traded up and got Mitchell Trubisky a few years ago, and we saw how that worked out for them. But he made it to 2 playoffs with them. I mean, but still, he wasn't that great. He wasn't a franchise quarterback. So they go out and they get Justin Fields now to be their future quarterback. I would say that was the biggest move of night one of the draft, but they have an issue because they still have Nick Foles under contract and Andy Dalton under contract, and now you have a rookie quarterback in there.
Well, they're just trying to figure out what veteran they're going to keep. What
you just signed Andy Dalton. I mean, I feel like Nick Foles should be, have his suitcase packed up, just waiting for that call.
Yeah. Again, I think we have to look at the contract and see what guaranteed money and what dead money that's going to count against the cap. So they'll make a decision. But, I don't know enough about what the Bears are going to do with regard to the rest of their offense. They always seem to be a player short in the offensive line. Their running backs, they don't utilize in the manner that they're designed for. And they're always a receiver short. So, and then let's throw in the poor play selection, the play calling that they've had. Nagy doesn't know whether he wants to call plays or not. And I just think the Bears are an annual mess.
I just still, and I said this going into the draft, knowing what the Niners were going to do, and I still am confused by it. I just don't get taking a quarterback number 3. I don't get why they're giving up so quickly on Jimmy Garoppolo. I understand. I know he's been injured 2 of the last 3 years. I know that he's been hurt, and that works against him. But the 1 year he was healthy, he led them to a Super Bowl. The 1 year their whole offense was healthy, because last year they didn't have George Kittle either.
Yeah.
To go out and get a quarterback like Trey Lance, who also just finished his season.
Very simple.
He played in the winter in Division I AA. I don't understand using the number 3 pick on Trey Lance when you have Jimmy Garoppolo.
Here's what I think is going to come into play. Garoppolo makes a lot of money, and they probably want to jettison that contract at some point within the next year or two. And to have Lance there, they feel like they won't miss a beat, because they'll obviously have him ready to go in some way, shape, or form. It's not a process, but I think there are a couple of things that come into this. With this new TV deal, you're going to see some salaries go through the roof. All right. Mm-hmm. And I think they want to make sure that they have more money to play with, and they'll take a hit for a year, and maybe Garoppolo stays healthy. But I think the long-term future is, by the time Lance is a really good player, we'll be in a position to pay him commensurate to what some of the other successful quarterbacks would be, and it won't kill him. So they're basically playing a guy for free. It's free money as far as I'm concerned, where his contract is not going to be a cap killer.
All this quarterback talk, the one name we haven't mentioned yet, Aaron Rodgers. What do you think is going to happen there?
Who cares?
He's the reigning MVP. What do you mean? Who cares?
But here's why. He's a reigning MVP. He's been on one Super Bowl team. He's a good player. I don't want to take anything away from him. But this is a guy who's had problems with everybody he's ever encountered. He got Mike McCartney fired. He didn't get along with any of the quarterbacks he's ever worked with. He's not what is considered an ideal team guy. There are a lot of other issues that come with him. Diva might be one of the things that I would call him. So Green Bay is going to have to move on. Why are you putting your eggs in a 37-year-old basket? Now, I see Tom Brady. I understand Tom Brady, but he's not Tom Brady. All right. And how many guys do we see at that stage get better? And then the next thing you know, you're looking around and you're saying, boy, this guy isn't what we thought he was going to be. Oh, yeah, we're paying him $40 million. So you know what? If he wants to go, then that's fine. I'm going to get something for him. But you know what? I'm good. I can move on. You know, it's just one of those things where this gets old after a while. We see it in the NBA all the time, and we see it in other sports. And at some point, you just got to draw the line. Now, if Aaron Rodgers was 34, 33 years old, I'd probably say, well, we got to keep him. He's 37. All right. He's 37. Tom Brady is a good player, but how many Tom Brady's come down the road?
My favorite story from the draft is that the New York Jets selected not one but 2 guys named Michael Carter in the draft. They also played 5 miles from each other. One played at Duke, the other one played at North Carolina, and they drafted one in the 4th round and one in the 5th round. So that's it's a dumb story. Neither one might never make an impact in the NFL, but the fact that they drafted 2 guys with the exact same name, I that's the story from the draft that I like the most.
Well, can you explain Zach Wilson?
He had a great, he had a great pro day.
Okay.
He did. He's that one. I mean, you see it every year, that guy that jumps up the charts, and both Trey Lance and Zach Wilson jumped over guys like Fields, and Mac Jones dropped a lot too, all the way down to New England. So, but I never saw Mac Jones as a top 3 pick. I thought he'd go in the top 10 to one of those teams, but for him to drop all the way down to New England, I thought that was.
I think there are a couple of things with Mac Jones, who almost ended up being a Missouri Tiger. Did you ever hear that story?
Mm-mm.
So Mac Jones's fiance, her fiance is Eli Drinkwitz's cousin. All right. And when Mac Jones was at Bama and there was some discussion about him not being a starter, remember they had Tua's brother and they had some other kids that they were going to. Mac Jones, if he wasn't going to be a starter, he was out of there. He was going to Mizzou.
Really?
Yeah. So Eli Drinkwitz's uncle is Mac Jones's fiance's father.
You're getting, I mean, you're getting Ferris Bueller on me with the family tree. So
no, it's simple. So listen, so Eli Drinkwitz's mother,
okay,
her brother is Mac Jones's fiance's father.
I think, okay. I get it. I think I'm all okay. I see it now. Okay. As you pointed out that way, I still feel like the tree is.
It's not that big of a tree, but that was what was going to happen. Here's the thing about Mac Jones, and I think one of the issues people think he was more of a game manager, and he's probably going to a team that's not going to have as good of receivers as the ones he was throwing to at Alabama.
He's not going to have a good enough line. He's not going to have that offensive line either that's going to sit there and protect him the whole game.
So it'll be something that we'll see. New England's got a lot of money to spend, so maybe they'll invest in a couple of offensive linemen in this second round of free agents that'll be available. So we'll see what happens. But I think Mac Jones will be a serviceable quarterback in the NFL.
The Blues have actually turned it on quite a bit since the last time you and I spoke. We talked about how last week was kind of do or die, and we'd have an idea of where they would be in the playoff picture. They went off. They've won 4 of their last 5 games. The other one they lost in overtime, so they've gotten points now in their last 5 games, 9 points in the last 5 games. They're 3 points ahead of Arizona for that 4th spot, and they have 3 games in hand against Arizona. So it's looking like we're going to have Blues playoff hockey.
Yes, it does. Now, the question is, and I haven't had a chance to look at the standings this morning. I'm not really worried about Arizona. I think there are a couple of other teams that are knocking at the door in San Jose and the Kings that may pass Arizona here fairly soon. But the key here is for the Blues is they have to win the games in hand. If they win the games in hand, they're in.
The Blues have 2 games in hand against the Sharks and are up 8 points on them. They're up 9 points on the Kings and have played the same amount of games.
So there you have it. Win your games in hands and you're in the playoffs.
I feel like 2 more wins and they might have that wrapped up.
Yeah, no, there's a distinct possibility of that. So we'll just see. I mean, but you know what? Here's the other thing that you have to take into account here. They can't resort back to their old ways like they did Saturday night, where you have a 2-goal lead and then you give it up, in the manner that you did. You can't go back to that. You got to be able to put teams away. But as I've said to you before, if they get in, they're going to be a handful for somebody.
Yeah, they are their next few games that they have coming up. They have 2 against Anaheim. They 7 games total. So it's 2 against Anaheim, 2 against Vegas, 1 against the Kings, and then 2 against Minnesota. So Vegas, Minnesota, both in front of them in the standings. So they have to, and then the Kings and the Ducks are in the last 2 spots in the West. So things look good for them right now, and they have Klim
Kostin.
Yeah, he's explain. Have you read into this enough to, I guess, understand? He came over. He was playing overseas. He's going to come back. He's going to be part of the taxi squad. Does he have to quarantine for 1 week before he's able to join his teammates?
Yeah, I think it's 7 days. He's here. I'm not sure of the direct parameters, but I think there was some wiggle room with regard to him coming over and the length of time that he'd have to spend. But, they have him penciled in as a guy that they feel can contribute. I don't want anybody to think this is Vladimir Tarasenko or Alexander Ovechkin. He's a big, strong guy. He plays heavy. He's not scared. And he does have enough of a skill set where he could be effective. I'd love to see him on a line with Sammy Blais and Ivan Barbashev. I'd like to see that line because there's going to be some people getting run into for sure. And they're all very good skaters. And I think that would be a very interesting line combination to have. Maybe I'd even bump them to a third. I don't know. I mean, fourth lines have to be able to do something special. But it'll be interesting to see what Craig Berube does, especially considering they haven't really seen a lot of him as far as his playing skills are concerned. We're basically going off of scouting reports and people who've had eyes on him. So we'll have to wait and see, but I'm looking forward to it.
This is Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com as we are powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. Back to wrap things up right after this.
Hi, I'm Ryan Kelly. The real estate market is on fire and homes are selling fast. Don't lose the home of your dreams. Be sure you're working with the experts. Get pre-approved today at thehomeloanexpert.com.
Also, Ameren, Illinois, we have an interview coming up on the website with you and Richard Marks. Unless it's already up there. I haven't looked today to see if it's up there yet, but I know you and Richard Marks had a conversation, and that interview available right now on claibsonline.com. What are some of the things you guys discussed?
Well, one of the things that's trending in this world of ours are electric cars, and they are going to be players. They're going to be here for good. The technology's made them easier to deal with. And with that, you've got to have what they call charging stations and how charging stations work. And, there obviously aren't enough of them in Southern Illinois. And we talked about how they're trying to get involved legislation wise to make sure there are more coming online and the difference in the various cars and their charging adapters. It's a pretty interesting conversation about where we're headed. And if you talk to any car dealer, they're already bracing for what's going to be next. And, 2 years from now, you'll see more electric cars on the road than you ever thought you could see. And if you don't believe me, ask Elon Musk. I mean, he's got the most successful car company in the world right now, and it's only getting better. And once they manufacture a more efficient battery, the one that has a longer life, and I think you're really going to see things move in a very interesting direction. So we talk with him about that and what Ameren's role is, not only with electric cars, but in how they've decided to be all in on making sure their equipment, as far as their vehicles are concerned, are electric. So we'll have some interesting things to talk about. And I would just suggest to people take a listen, because this will be you before you know it.
The NBA playoffs, we talk about the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs are fast approaching as well. And I don't know if you saw these comments by LeBron, because the Lakers right now have dropped all the way to the 7th seed out in the West. And now LeBron is suddenly completely against the play-in rounds between 7 and 10, or 7 and 9 and 8 and 10, or no, 8 and 9, 7 and 10. There you go. And he's completely against having play-in games for that, where last year around this same time, he was absolutely for the idea of having play-ins and having as many teams involved in the playoffs as possible. But now that there's a chance that he might lose in a play-in round, he's suddenly against it.
I don't think it's the fact that he could lose. I think it's the fact that they got to play more games. And play-in was a good idea last year when you were in the bubble. There was no travel involved. There wasn't anything as far as a added distraction other than COVID. That was a good idea. The way it is now, well, you know what? It's still a good idea. It's just the fact you don't want to be one of those teams. You don't want to be falling into the play-in compared to playing into the play-in. And that's where the Lakers are. But, LeBron's got bigger problems. That team is not necessarily well put together for postseason. So they've got some issues. I see where he's coming from. Don't necessarily agree with it. I think if they were all in one centrally located venue, that would be different.
Yeah, they'll travel this year for the postseason. And finally, before we get out of here, Claibs, we talked a little bit a few weeks ago about the Super League that was trying to be put together over in the UK for soccer, over in Europe, all of Europe for soccer. That is even though the Super League is done and over with, not going to be a thing, we're still seeing some ramifications of that. Manchester United, the other day, a Premier League team, they had their game postponed after hundreds of Man U fans protested the Glazer family, the owners, and invaded the pitch at Old Trafford Stadium ahead of their match against Liverpool. It was going to be a huge game, but the fans worked their way in. They got on the field. They did not leave the field. And after a while of a long time of protesting, they just called the game.
Well, I happened to be watching that yesterday morning, and first of all, this was a well organized plot. Okay, it was almost like Washington D.C. storming the Capitol. They knew what entrance to go in. They had things really well set up. The police were not really in play early on. It got a little rough afterwards. But the bottom line here is these are some fans who were upset because A, they can't watch the games. They still, they're on lockdown there. B, the American owners have turned their league into a travesty, basically an embarrassment. And C, there's a lot of frustration that's going on with regard to how the league is now working. But there's one problem that they have to take into account. There just aren't enough British owners or people of that sort of dough that want to invest in spending the money. And let's face it, these teams don't have a salary cap. Okay, you can spend whatever for however long. So it's every man for himself as far as the teams and the players are concerned. There's no union, so you're just doing it on a handshake, and this is what you want. So they don't have enough owners or people in Britain who want to make that sort of sizable investment. Remember, these teams are only valuable until you sell them. All right, they don't hold the value that you think until you try and sell them. So it's one of those deals that they're really frustrated. They don't know where to turn. Here comes the Americans over, whether it's Glazer, whether it's John Henry, whether it's Stan Kroenke, who have come in and they're using North American tactics on sports teams ownerships, and they just don't like it. And the fact that they're not making their teams as competitive as they expect them to be is another reason. So the fans took it upon themselves to go in and let everybody in the world know they weren't happy about it. I was wondering if that would have taken place in the United States. I think we'd have a whole different situation.
Yeah,
we've already seen people storm an institution once, so I'm not sure storming Yankee Stadium or any of that was going to go over well here in the States.
Is there a fan base in the U.S. that is passionate enough to do something like that? No.
Yeah, well, they have a different option. Fans in this country, if you don't like a team, you don't go. You don't support them. You have so many different vehicles, whether it's the talk radio bashing, the media bashing. There's a lot of things that go on that you can get your point across. And I think the best case in point is that nobody likes the Washington Redskins or the Washington football team. A, because Daniel Snyder has been a bad owner. B, because of the name and how that's created such a national attention. And C, there doesn't appear to be any hope. Now, there's two ways you could have handled it. Schneider could have sold it, or he could have bought out his partners. Well, he bought out his partners. So what does that say about the next step? The only other step the fans have is not go. Now, you could say, yeah, that'll show them. But then remember this. The TV money that these teams are bringing in, they could care less if you show up anymore. They're trying to build smaller stadiums if they ever build another round of stadiums. So you're kind of stuck. I don't know to what extreme you get enough fans that would really want to oppose this thing. Like yesterday, they had maybe 1,000 people that did it. I don't think you can get enough fans that would really think that seriously enough to force a sale of that nature.
Yeah, that'll we're going to wrap up on that one for today. Mets in town this week. Is what games is Shannon doing this week?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the schedule. I think it's later in the week.
What do you have planned for the pregame?
Gary Apple, he was before your time. Gary Apple used to work in this market in the mid 80s. And I think he left in 90 or 91. And good guy that we've known over the years. He's on the broadcast team for the Mets on the TV side. And we catch up and we talk about the Mets. And certainly Gary's been a great friend over the years. So he's going to be our pregame show guest today.
This weekend, the Rockies are in town. And do you know who will be coming back with the Rockies this weekend?
I would think some of the guys that got traded.
Matt Adams will be back in town this weekend.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, he got called up over the weekend with the Rockies. He was signed a minor league deal with them and got his first start over the weekend. So
Matt Adams, one of my favorite guys.
Yeah, he will be back in town he'll be back in town this weekend.
He still lives here.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Married a girl from here. So makes his home here now. So he'll be in town this week. The Mets series, like we mentioned this more earlier, it's a new measuring stick for the Cardinals. I don't know how good the Mets are. I know they spend a lot of money, and they're built to be a very competitive team, but these 4 games will tell a lot about this team early on.
I think you make a great point. We'll know a little bit more about this team. And then, what happens after this, you play the Mets. Here comes Colorado. Colorado's trying to figure it out. Then you go to Milwaukee and San Diego. That's when you really know what you have and what you don't have enough of.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Claibs, you have a good rest of the week. We will check in with you. Are you doing stuff with Ferrario this week too?
We will be doing something with him later in the week as well.
Perfect. So we got Ferrario, we got Costas, we got
Dr. Rick. We've
Joe,
got something
Dr.
coming
Rick.
up. Yeah.
We got plenty of stuff for you each and every day here on claibsonline.com. This has been Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. Find him online at thehomeloanexpert.com. Have a great rest of your Monday.